everyone, so today we're going to be talking about my reading resolutions and goals for 2024. So starting things out easy, we're going to go with my Goodreads goal. Last year, I believe I set it at 300. That was too low, since as I'm filming this, I'm about to hit 600 volumes of manga read. But for 2024, I'm going to leave my Goodreads goal at 400, and that is largely because my TBR right now has been drastically decreased, so I don't think I'm going to be able to keep the pace that I've been keeping. Also, I want to get back to reading novels, which obviously take a little bit longer to read than manga. So I think 400 is a good goal. I do want to slow down my reading because I read too fast sometimes, but that is still more than one book every day. So still a lot to read in a year. I'm not denying that, but it should be less than I have been reading the last year or two. Going back to my TBR, this year I don't think I have like a set number of unread manga I want to hit, but my main goal for the year will be to read every single completed manga on my shelf. And this includes one-shots, and this has been something I have quietly been working towards throughout 2023, but I'm not quite there yet, so I want to include it in my goals for 2024 to make sure I continue to focus on it. If I'm doing the math right, this should leave me at about 150 to 175 volumes that are unread on my TBR, which should be about 90% of my collection read. And I'm focusing on this so much because I do have so many manga on the Viz app and the Shonen Jump app that I want to read that are only available digitally, along with some other various digital manga platforms. And I really want to read those, but previously I have just been so focused on my TBR because I feel like I'm neglecting my books if I'm reading digitally. So when I am eventually caught up with my TBR, then I can go ahead and read those digital volumes without any guilt. Not that you should have any guilt for not reading the manga on your TBR. That's just how my brain works. And I mentioned this briefly before, but I want to get back into reading novels. Last year, I set a goal to read one novel every week. At this point, that was a little bit too much, so I'm going to set my goal to reading 2 novels per month, which shouldn't be too difficult to hit. I'm also planning on going back to reading mostly physically because I've noticed when I read via audiobook, I don't enjoy the book as much. So we'll see how that goes, but at this point, I'm pretty optimistic I can hit that goal. Then, of course, we have the 10 series in my collection that I need to read in 2024. Technically, if I want to hit my goal of reading all my completed manga, then I will have to read all these series anyway. But I like crossing things off on a list. So I'm going to list the 10 series I want to read. Also, some of these are digital ones. This one is not yet complete, but I have The Heroic Legend of Arslan. This is by the same creator as Fullmetal Alchemist. I read the first 5 volumes a long time ago when those were the only 5 volumes that were out, and I never picked it back up, even though I did enjoy it. This is a fantasy action manga, and it's pretty fun, so I want to get back into it to see if I enjoy it as much the second time as I did the first time. Next, I have Orange. So I have previously read the first 2 omnibuses of this, but I never read the 2 extra volumes. And I know that the new box set has recently been released and it looks really nice, but I've been holding off buying it until I reread the series and read the other 2 to decide if it's a favorite and if I want to collect that box set. So I need to put this on my reading resolutions for the year to make that decision. Next, I have some easy ones that aren't even really a challenge to read because I want to read them so bad, but they are completing next year. So I'm going to put them on this list so I can cross them off. But the first one is Alice in Borderland. This will be completing in March, and I've only read this first volume, but I really enjoyed it. I've heard really good things about the series as it continues, so definitely looking forward to this one. Similarly, I also have Children of the Whales, which is also completing in 2024. I have not read this in a long time, but I did enjoy what I read. These covers are gorgeous, and just to make sure I complete it, although I don't think I'll have any problems doing so, I'm going to include it on this list. And probably the easiest one for me to complete is Golden Kamuy. I've already read 26 volumes of this, I believe, but again, it's completing in January, so I'm going to read it in January. This is already one of my favorite manga, so I'm very much looking forward to the ending to see what I think of the series as a whole. Alright, next I have Fullmetal Alchemist. Technically, I don't have this on my TBR because I've watched the entire anime, both versions, and I really enjoy it. So when I watch an anime, usually I don't include the manga on my TBR, but I haven't actually read the manga. And I definitely want to do so, especially since I have all of these really nice Full Metal editions to read. And yeah, obviously if I have manga on my shelves, I want to read them. So I need to put it on my resolutions to make sure I get to it next year. Next I have Barefoot Gen. This is probably the most intimidating one on this TBR just because it is a historical manga and it deals with some really heavy subject material. But I have the entire series in these really nice hardcover editions, so I need to go ahead and read it next year. Finally, for all the manga I have physically, I don't even think that I've talked about this on my channel. I'm not sure if people even know I have this manga, but semi-recently bought, it's backwards, the entire set of Thermae Romae in this hardcover edition that's very heavy. Honestly, I have no idea how I'm going to read this because it is so heavy, but I've heard really good things about this, and it's a pretty unique manga about Roman baths. So yeah, definitely one I want to read next year for sure. And also, for the first time, I have decided to put digital manga on my reading resolutions. So first, I have one that I've been wanting to read for a really long time. The physical edition is out of print, and this series is Tagami Bachi. The entire series is on the Shonen Jump app. A long time ago, before the MangaTube boom, as I call it, there were a couple people on MangaTube who were talking about this manga in particular, and it sounded really good, but I never was able to pick it up, and then it went out of print. So I really want to read it on the Shonen Jump app. I want to start using the Shonen Jump app more frequently anyway, so this is a good place to start. And the last thing on my TBR for 2024, at least this section, is technically two things, but it will be completed if I read one or the other. And those are the two big shoujo manga that people keep asking to get reprinted. The first one is Basara, and the second one is Red River. So if I read either of these series in the new year, then I will check this off the list. If I read both of them, then that's great. But the goal is just to read at least one of them. So those are the 10 series on my TBR that I want to read next year. But also, I have an added bonus of picking 6 different series that I want to reread in my collection. The first of which is Haikyuu. Now, technically, I've never read all the way through Haikyuu. I watched the first 3 seasons of the anime, and then when that finished, I jumped into the manga, and I had read the manga weekly until it finished. So now I want to finally start with Volume 1 and read through the entire manga in 2024. Shouldn't be too difficult since sports manga are very quick reads, but I'm definitely looking forward to this one. Next I have The Promised Neverland. This one I caught up with before the first season of the anime was even out, before the first arc in the manga was even completed, and I've been reading it weekly since then, and then all the way through to the ending. So I definitely want to read this all in one go, as I usually read manga, since I haven't done that with this series before. So maybe I'll keep this one until October and read it then. We'll see. I just realized I have a lot of Hiromu Arakawa in this video, but next I want to reread Silver Spoon. There are 15 volumes in the series. This one I didn't read that long ago, but it was really fun and I really enjoyed it. And since I've been struggling with slice of life manga so much, I want to go back to one that I really enjoyed. Next, I have one that I don't get to talk about on this channel very much since it's out of print, and I feel bad that people can't really collect it anymore, but I have Gunslinger Girl. You can see how long I've had it because it still has the plastic wrap from when I used to wrap my manga. But this is a manga about cyborg girls who are basically used as weapons for the government. I read this in 2017 or 2018, I can't remember, but I really enjoyed it, and I want to reread it to see if I still have the same feelings reading it the second time as I did the first time. Next, I have Hikaru no Go, so I have all 23 volumes. I read this series quite a few years ago as well, and I enjoyed it except for the ending, but the rest of the series was enjoyable enough for me to keep it in my collection, and now I'm going to reread it. Lastly, I want to reread Akira. I do have the 35th anniversary box set. I just didn't feel like getting the book out. When I think about my favorites, I don't think about Akira, but I did give it a very, very high score when I read it, so I want to read it again to see if it is one of my favorites. So those are all my goals for 2024. Let me know down below what you think of these goals or what you're planning on doing in 2024. If you have any challenges or series you want to read in the new year, go ahead and leave those down below. But that's going to be it for this video. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time. Bye!